correct me if I'm wrong, Sara Coulter from Rice County Public Health Nursing Service, but we have the state's foremost authority on radon with us today, don't we, and Dan Tranter?
We do.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you...
I'm blushing.
You are?
Well, I don't know if I'm the foremost authority. There's a lot of experts in the state on radon.
I think you're probably the expert on radon. Not only in the state, but in the country, I know.
Oh, no, that's a stretch.
Because Minnesota, as a whole, is a, for lack of a better term, radon state, right?
Yeah, we have high radon in Minnesota. We're one of the highest radon states in the country. Unfortunately, it's kind of a dubious distinction, but that is the reality due to our high levels naturally in the soil, and the fact their homes are closed up most of the year. If you think about it, days like today, our windows and doors are shut. Much of all the winter, much of the fall and spring, our buildings are shut. Even in the summer, due to the hot temperatures, our buildings are closed, so that allows radon to build up.
So Dan, how did you get so interested in radon?
Well, I went to school for public health, and I got a job at the health department, and it was in the indoor air unit, and radon is a focus of our program because it's such a significant public health problem, and it causes lung cancer. It's the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. Across the U.S., it's estimated to cause over 21,000 lung cancer deaths. So it's just something that I've been interested in because it's such a big public health issue, and it's kind of ignored by a lot of people. Doesn't get the kind of attention it should, considering the big health impact it has. So for those reasons, it's been something I've been very interested in and worked on for about 17 years now.
I thought I read somewhere at one time that this takes a long time to develop in terms of lung cancer.
Yes.
You know, you'd have to inhale this for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. It's a long-term health risk. You need to breathe it for a long time. And it's hard to define what a long time is, right, because it would depend on the concentration and any risk factors and vulnerabilities you have. But certainly it's a concern maybe after several months of elevated exposure. Certainly after several years, we can measure some increased risk of developing lung cancer in people. The estimates, for example, are about a 1 in 100 risk. If you are exposed to the kind of concentrations we see on average in Rice County, you have about a 1 in 100 chance of developing lung cancer if you've never smoked over the course of your lifetime, which is about 70 years.
And the measurement you use for this is picocuries per liter, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's units of radiation. So picocuries are named after the great physicist Marie Curie.
I saw a movie on him over the weekend, by the way.
Yeah, she researched radiation and allowed us to learn a lot about it. So we named the units after her. So first, units of radiation in air, and again, we measure it in picocuries per liter. And the action level that people should know is 4. So you should test your home. Everyone should test their home. And if the level's over 4, you should consider fixing your home. Even under 4, you might want to fix your home. It's not like 3.9 is safe and magically something at 4.0 changes. It's like smoking cigarettes. The more you smoke, the worse it is for you. The reason they came up with 4 in the 1980s was back then they were able to get levels down to below 4. That was kind of the cutoff. They couldn't get it much below 4, so they said 4 is our action level. Now, contractors can routinely get it down to below 2. So you should consider fixing your home if you're between 2 and 4. Definitely fix it over 4.
All right, I got to take a break here, and then we're going to come back. By the way, the average level of radon in Rice County homes is at 5.9 picocuries per liter. So that tells you we're high here in Rice County too. So let's get that opening market report, a service of your KDHL Agri Boosters, and then we'll talk more about radon. We're going to hit mold, carbon monoxide, and talk about all that good stuff. Oh, that's right, we're not getting a market update today. I plumb forgot about that. Normally, we would be hearing a market update right now. Normally, that would be brought to you by the KDHL Agri Boosters. But because Dan has a lot of pull, because he's the foremost authority on radon in Minnesota and maybe the nation, we're foregoing the market update, so we have a few more minutes to visit with you, Dad.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that awesome?
Let's talk radon and indoor air.
Yeah. You see, we want to talk about mold, carbon monoxide too, right?
Yes, yes.
We want to touch on all those.
Absolutely.
So we were talking about the picocuries per liter and the fact that Rice County averages 5.9, and I got information from Goodhue County. 50% of the homes tested in Goodhue County were higher than that threshold.
4, yeah. This area is especially high. I mean, the state as a whole is high for the nation. Southern Minnesota is high for the state. So we're really kind of in the hot spot for the country. All across the upper Midwest and Midwest, there's a high radon potential. And again, the good news is it's easy to deal with it. You can test your home. The county is giving out test kits for free. You can buy them at hardware stores. They do cost more, obviously. You can buy them online for $9.95. A lot of ways to get test kits to test your home and find out if you have high radon.
Yep, you can get them free again over at
Rice County Public Health. So we're located at 320 3rd Street Northwest. We also have a satellite office, and that's at the second floor of the Northfield City Hall, which is located at 801 Washington Street. We've given out over 106 kits over the last 3 days, so we're pretty excited over there.
Wow, the last 3 days.
Yep.
Yeah, that's terrific. And brought down another box of kits for Sarah in the county. We're shipping her another one, so I think there'll be a couple hundred tests done, this winter season, hopefully. So a lot of people will find out if they have a problem, and hopefully many of them don't, but unfortunately we'd expect about half of them will.
But what I get a kick out of, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have to tell somebody when you sell your home whether or not you have a radon problem. If you know you have a radon problem, but you're not required to test for the radon problem.
That's right. So there's a law called the Radon Awareness Act that requires you to disclose if you've tested. So first thing is, have I tested, yes or no? And then if you say yes, then what was the result? And then did you fix it if it was high? Maybe what's more important is there's a warning statement and a 2-page publication. And what that does is it gives the buyer an opportunity to say, hey, I want to have a test done during the home inspection. And we're seeing a lot more testing done during the home inspection and more mitigation systems getting installed now than there has ever been before.
Well, I think this is my own personal opinion, should be required.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but that would require a law. It would require a bill to be introduced, and I don't see anything in the near future, but maybe someday there will be a requirement to
But in
test.
building code, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, new home construction now does include some mitigation.
That does. It's called radon-resistant new construction.
Right.
It's basically a pipe. It's like a radon mitigation system without the fan. So it's like a pipe that starts under the house. It goes up through the house and out the house. But there's no fan installed. So these new construction do make an impact on the radon levels, and they do reduce them, but not in every case are they below 4. So we still want people to test, and better yet, install the fan during construction, because the fan doesn't cost that much, and it makes a big difference to put the fan in during construction. So unfortunately, there's a perception new home buyers think, oh, I got a radon system, I don't need to think about it. But I would still recommend that they either test or better yet have a fan installed and talk to their builder.
Let me ask you this, Dan. If I tested my home this year, should I test it again in a few years?
We recommend every 5 years. If you test it and it comes back low, test again every 5 years. Or if if there's major changes, like you have a new heating system, or you do a lot of work on the foundation, then test again. But generally, it's every 5 years. If you put a radon system in your house, I would suggest testing every 2 years.
And Sarah, just in case this individual does not call in, that stopped by your office the other day.
Called in, yep.
Yeah. Oh, you called in?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe you could relate the story about his cabin he was wondering about.
So how about, Dan, I ask you? So I had a caller into public health yesterday who was asking me about a home or a cabin that they intend to purchase in Rice County. And they were asking me about the foundation of that cabin being elevated off of the soil. So it's up about 1 foot to 1.5 feet, 3-season cabin. Does the fact that the foundation is up off of the soil impact or help them in having better radon results? Maybe they don't need to test.
Yeah, that depends. We generally tell everyone to test their home.
Yeah.
It's hard to predict just by looking at a home if it's going to have a high risk or not. We see radon problems in old homes, new homes, tight homes, drafty homes, homes with or without basements. In this case, what I'd want to know is, it sounds like there's basically like a crawl space, but is that crawl space enclosed? You know, most homes that are built like that are enclosed. If it was totally open, there would be less chance of a radon problem.
But still test.
But still test, why not? You can get a free test kit from Rice County or a few bucks online. So rather than try to guess, you should just test.
These kits are available through the state too?
We don't give them out directly, but we have an arrangement with a laboratory that sells discounted test kits for $9.95 through mn.radon.com. So if you don't want to come down to Rice County, it's a cold day, you want to get online with your credit card and order it, you can go to mn.radon.com and buy
But
one.
these test kits only being given to Rice County residents, Sarah?
No, actually, we'll distribute them to anyone who wants a kit. If you've made the effort to come into our office or work in this county and happen to come by, we just want people to test.
Well, I'm thinking of Kenyon, you know, it's a lot closer to come here than go to Red Wing.
Yes, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have about 116 partners right now statewide. Most of the county health departments are giving out test kits, especially in southern Minnesota. I think they pretty much all are doing that. There are also some nonprofits and housing agencies, community organizations, clinics that also give out test kits. It's been a great partnership we've had with all these organizations.
Are some test kits better than others?
We only deal with approved kits and test devices. I mean, there's some out there that are unapproved.
I know you got some you were.
Yeah, let me show the folks that are watching. This is the test kit that's commonly used in Minnesota. This is what we give our county partners. Looks like a cardboard pouch. You open it up, and there's a cardboard insert. You put that insert in there to keep the mouth of this pouch open. It is best with these kits to hang them. There's a hook, and you can hang them in the lowest part of your home you spend time in. That could be your basement. It could be the next level up. Just a space where you actually spend time, like 10 hours a week. Leave it out for a few days, like 3 days, 4 days. Take the insert, chuck that, seal it up, pop it in the mail, get it in the mail as soon as possible. That's a very commonly used type of test kit. The kind of test kit you might find at the hardware store looks like 2 little vials, and you unscrew the top of these vials, expose it again for a few days, ship it off. And then another kind of kit's called a long-term kit. Looks like a puck. Some are bigger. So some of them are about 1.5 inches in diameter. Some are like 3 or 4 inches. That you leave out for like 3 months. If you wanted to do that, you can buy those again online.
So you find these levels of radon fluctuate?
They might in some homes, certainly. If you have your windows open and doors open, that can reduce radon. We've been analyzing a lot of data on radon in Minnesota, and we looked at the average seasonal concentration in homes for 2010 to 2016 in over 130,000 properties. And what we found is spring, fall, winter are pretty similar, average statewide. Summer is a little lower, like about 20% lower on average. But again, every home is unique. So there could be homes that are actually higher in the summer. But on average, levels we see are a little lower in Minnesota in the summer.
Probably got a little ahead of ourselves, Sarah, because we didn't tell people what radon is.
That's a good point. We kind of glossed over that. So radon's a gas. It's colorless, it's odorless, can't see it, smell it, taste it. It's found naturally in the soil. It comes from uranium, and we have a lot of uranium in our soil around here. And it breaks down and becomes this gas that floats around and gets sucked up into our homes, because all our homes are pulling in some soil gas, whether you know it or not. And then it can build up to high levels. And it is a type of radiation. It's ionizing. It shoots out what I call subatomic cannonballs called alpha particles. And when you breathe that in, those fine, very, very tiny subatomic particles cause a lot of damage that can lead to lung cancer. Lung cancer, unfortunately, is a very deadly form of cancer. Most people that are diagnosed die within a year or two. It is also very preventable, maybe the most preventable type of lung cancer or type of cancer,
Right.
because if you don't smoke and you reduce your radon, it's going to go a long way to reducing your risk. So we really are focused on radon for that reason.
Do you have anything else, Sarah, before I move on to mold?
Yeah, one of the things that I see coming into our office is questions from renters. So I wonder, Dan, if you could just talk a little bit about what a renter could do in a rental situation.
That's a very good question. They can test, certainly, a renter can test the property they're in. They could ask their landlord to test. Whether the landlord would do it, I don't know. And if it comes back high, the only thing I know of is they need to talk to the landlord and hope the landlord's willing to do it.
So legally, there's no obligation to.
No, there's no law that says if you find high radon in a rental, you have to fix it. So right now, it's basically an arrangement between the tenant and the landlord.
Is it spending to mitigate?
It's about $1,500 to $2,000 if you hire a professional, and we do recommend you hire a certified radon mitigation professional. We have a list of these people on our website, and there's a lot of people in this area that provide that kind of service.
One thing that I want to add to that, Dan, is that in a multi-unit housing situation, so an apartment building, the testing protocols are different, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And what can people do for a resource on, can they call you, or do they call MDH, or how does that work?
Yeah, we can break it down, but basically in a multi-unit structure, you'd want to test each structure on the ground level, and then if there's several floors above it, you do want to test some of the units above there too, just to make sure you're not missing anything. So you definitely want to test every unit that's on contact with the ground.
Interesting.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. But we did want to touch on mold.
Yeah.
Which probably is pretty significant in Minnesota too.
Yeah, certainly. We have such an extreme climate here. We can have problems in the winter with ice dams and freezing pipes and frost. They can cause buildings to get wet in the spring. You can have frozen ground and snow melt and heavy rains. In the summer, we have deluges. Every part of the year is different here, and that presents some unique challenges. The key thing with mold is to control moisture, prevent leaks, prevent water problems, and when there is a leak or flood, to respond quickly. If you can go about and dry things up within a day or two, you can prevent a lot of expensive repairs. If you wait several days and things stay wet, then the chances are you have mold in your home, and you would need to toss things like carpeting and drywall. And we're concerned about mold because it can cause health problems like asthma, it can trigger allergies, it can cause lung, nose, and throat problems. It can cause infections in people with weakened immune systems. So there are some health concerns, but again, the key is focus on moisture, keep your home dry, respond to leaks quickly, and when you find mold, clean it and remove it properly. So if there is mold on something absorbent like drywall, remove the drywall. Even though that's an expense, remove it, because if you just try to clean it a little bit, you probably won't remove most of it. When there's a little bit of mold on the front of a piece of drywall, say in your basement, there's probably a lot of mold on the backside. So the best thing is to remove that piece of drywall. A hard surfaces like concrete, tile, glass, metal, solid wood, if it's structurally sound, all you need to do is clean it. Stiff brush, soapy water, maybe bleach. You don't have to use bleach, but you could as a second step to kill anything that's left behind. Do wear a respirator, like an N95, it's called. You can get them at hardware stores to protect your nose and throat.
And Dan Tranter is with us, Sara Coulter as well. Dan is an indoor air specialist Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm the supervisor,
Of
but
the
I am a
unit.
specialist of indoor air, yeah.
Indoor air specialist. It's not something you probably thought when you were 8 or 9 years old. Gee, I think I want to grow up
Yeah.
and be an indoor air
I
specialist.
probably wanted to be like a fireman or something. I don't know.
But I wanted to be a brain surgeon, and look what I'm doing.
I want to piggyback on this a little bit
Sure.
because Rice County Public Health does have what's called a Healthy Homes Assessment. We've received a grant from the Minnesota Department of Health where we can send a public health nurse to homes that can test, and the individual can test for mold, lead in paint or around windowsills. I'm going to blank on, carbon monoxide. They'll come and they'll count how many fire extinguishers you have and if you have the appropriate number.
That's great. I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear you have that service
Yep.
and you got that grant to provide that to your community.
Yep, so people could call 507-332-6111, and that's Rice County Public Health's main number, and ask for a Healthy Homes Assessment.
Awesome. Is it? And it doesn't cost you anything?
Nope.
Wow.
There's kind of no reason not to do that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things you can find in your home that can cause health problems. We've talked about mold, you've touched on lead and asbestos. Do we want to talk about carbon monoxide?
Sure.
Yeah, that's another one we want people to be aware of.
Before you get started, a friend of mine and I were talking on the phone. I know this sounds bizarre, but this topic came up. And he said the carbon monoxide combination smoke detectors are worthless.
I hadn't heard that before.
I don't know how he knows this, but I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. I know there are combo alarms out there, and you know what I know is that if they're approved and listed by the underwriter's laboratory, you'll see a U and an L with a circle.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's what you want to look for in your seal of approval, and if it has that, as far as I'm concerned, you can use it. The other thing to remember about these alarms is CO alarms have about a 5 to 7 year usage life. Some of them will start chirping when they reach the end of their life, but some of them don't, so don't just wait for that. If you think it's more than 5 years old, I would replace it because they're only about $30, if not less, at the hardware store.
Well, his theory was, and I think this is purely a theory on his part, smoke detectors you put up on the ceiling.
Yeah, definitely.
The carbon monoxide detector, you don't want it to be.
It can actually be up in the ceiling, so there's a lot of confusion about that. Smoke alarms have to be up in the ceiling because smoke rises.
Right.
We all know that. CO is about the same weight as air, so it will mix quite quickly and evenly throughout the space of a room. And what that means is you can have it plugged in at an outlet level, that's perfectly acceptable, or you could have it up high at the ceiling because the levels are going to be about this equal throughout the air in a room. So the alarms are real lifesavers, and actually by code we're required to have one within 10 feet of every bedroom. So if you're going to sell your home at some point, you're going to have to put those alarms in anyway, so why not put them in now and protect yourself and your family? The other thing to consider is to have a CO furnace tune-up, annually or so. Have a CO safety check done of your furnace as part of that too. I'd also like to mention real quick, don't forget about your ice houses if you're out ice fishing, your cabins, trailers, second homes. Make sure you have CO alarms in those places too. Bring it with you. Have two at home and then bring one with you that's battery powered so that you can protect yourself. Because unfortunately people do die ice fishing. That's happened in ice houses.
Seems like almost every winter we get one of those sad stories.
Yeah, it's tragic. There was a tragic story of a little 7-year-old girl in the Twin Cities, Lake Minnetonka, who died a few years ago. Sophie was her name, and after that a law was passed that now requires larger boats that have indoor spaces to either have an alarm or a warning sign to protect people.
So you think these combo detectors are fine?
I have not seen a problem. That's news to me. So yeah, I'd say they're fine.
Well, I would think I'm going to trust you because you're the indoor air specialist.
It's news to me. I mean, I'll check around, but I haven't seen any problem with them.
And again, if folks are interested in this
Healthy Homes Assessment. Yep, it's done through Rice County Public Health. One of our public health nurses has been, there's a education program that the individual goes through with the Department of Health to be able to offer this service. And then any needs that a home may have as far as carbon monoxide detectors or fire extinguishers, etc., they are provided for the individual.
So a carbon monoxide detector is required now in the home? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's required within 30 feet of every bedroom. So if you have all your bedrooms next to each other on one level, let's say.
The smoke detectors are required.
Smoke detectors, you need several. Actually, you need one on every level and every bedroom. So you'll need several smoke detectors in a home. You might just get away with one carbon monoxide alarm in a home. You might need more than one. If you have bedrooms downstairs and you have bedrooms upstairs, you might need several.
And you said the number of
507, so the number for Rice County Public Health is 507-332-6111. That's our main number, and then just ask for a Healthy Homes Assessment.
Okay. Healthy Homes Assessment. And it's free, folks. Best four-letter word in the English language other than love, free.
Well, if you like free, we also have free classes we teach. We have continuing education classes for child care providers, continuing education classes for real estate professionals. We can also arrange classes for sanitarians and public health nurses at the county level. Again, these are free, and we'll come down to Rice County and teach them at a time and place. So call the health department's indoor air unit if you'd like. If you're a real estate company or association or a child care association, you want to organize something, give us a call and we'll set it up.
Well, I like the idea of the child care. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that's an area we focus on. We have a class on mold, carbon monoxide, on radon, and again for real estate agents too, because these issues come up in home transactions.
Well, kind of makes some sense, doesn't it, that the little lungs inhaling this versus adult lungs?
Yeah, and if you think about a child care, you have 5 to 10 kids in there. You have the family. So by addressing hazards there, you're helping the family and you're helping the kids, and you're helping their business, thrive and be more fruitful. So it's a win-win-win.
Now earlier, Dan, you said that radon doesn't get the attention that it should, but we're getting more attention now than when you first started in the indoor air unit, don't you think?
I would say so. We've had great partnerships with counties such as Rice. They're doing a lot of good education outreach. We have a grant that's year to year. It could go away. It's a federal grant that's paying for the test kits we get out to the counties. We are getting better at our outreach and marketing. And we have the Radon Awareness Act that I started out mentioning. I think maybe it was before we got on air, but we have a law that requires you to disclose and notify about radon. And a lot of the testing and mitigation is happening because of that law. So there's a combination of factors. We have a fairly strong economy that helps get people interested in fixing up their homes. So for all these reasons, we're seeing more testing and more mitigation.
Well, again, I think we touched on this earlier, but just in case people did not hear that part of this show, because it may be the most important part of the show, you're required to test. You're required to say, you're required to tell the person who purchases your home, but you're not required to test.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Which makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, well, what it does is it's basically educating and informing the buyer. There's a lot of different hazards that could be found in a home.
Now, I can tell whoever I'm buying the home from, I'm not buying this unless I get a test.
Right. So there is some leverage on the buyer. They can say, I'm going to do a test as part of the home inspection. And then if they find high levels, they can negotiate. Just like if you find a problem with the water heater, you can say, I'm not buying this house unless you replace the water heater. And so, likewise, you can say, I'm not buying the house unless you get a radon system installed. So that's a good point for us where people can make a difference and get radon addressed.
Well, I've about plumb run out of time. I sure appreciate you coming in, Sarah, and for arranging Dan to come down.
Yeah, thanks.
Dan, it's always good to see you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
Many years we talked on the phone.
We had, done it over the phone, but I prefer doing it live. I think it's much better.
Yeah, well, even We put it up on YouTube. You can watch it later if you'd like.
I'll look for that. I know my kids will get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good idea. You're in tune to KDHLAM, Faribault, Minnesota.